Hello. Welcome to the Empowered Artist Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Apple, a multi-hyphanate actor, educator, acting coach, writer, dog mom, and founder of this vibrant community that champions artists as they carve out their own unique paths in this wild industry. Whether you're just starting out, in the thick of it, or seeking a bit of artistic fuel to expand your toolbox, you're in the right place. In this space, we'll have honest conversations, share actionable strategies, tips, and resources, and delve into the messy yet beautiful journey of living a sustainable, creative life. We unmask the reality of life as an artist, from navigating career highs and lows to nurturing your full human well-being. I chat with women and non-binary guests who share their personal stories, helpful learnings, and hearts to help you unlock your artistic potential, expand your knowledge, and show up fully and fearlessly in your artistry and daily life. Before we dive into this week's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If today's chat resonates with you, please leave us a review. It helps us reach even more incredible artists just like you. And hey, feel free to spread the love. Share this podcast with a friend or post it on your socials, making sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can chat with you there. All right, grab a cup of something cozy, settle in, and let's get to it. What does it take to turn your creative ideas into finished projects? In this episode, I talked to Sujata Day, actor, writer, director, and producer who shares her journey as a multi-hyphanate artist. She discusses how taking pressure off herself has led to new creative inspiration, the importance of deep outlining before scriptwriting, and how networking through genuine relationships opened doors in her career. Together, we talk about the importance of allowing ideas to flow, the realities of pitching, funding, and producing projects, and the importance of starting small, assembling the right team, and treating every opportunity as a stepping stone. Whether you're an emerging creator or an established artist, this episode is packed with actionable advice to help you confidently take your next steps. Enjoy. Sujata Day, hello.
Hi.
I'm super grateful to have you in this space. For anybody who does not know you, who are you today?
Today I am well rested.
Ooh.
I've been dancing a lot. That's kind of my new thing. I take dance classes, hip hop, jazz, groove. It's been
Yes.
so fun. Learning choreography. It exercises the mind and the body, and I'm just having a blast.
Yes. Is this part of like your normal cadence, as in like dance has always been a part of what you do, or this is a new addition?
So I grew up dancing. I grew up doing Bharatanatyam, which is Indian classical dance,
Mhm.
and then I expanded out into ballet, jazz, hip hop later on,
Yeah.
and cheerleading. And it was so fun that I think I've been doing it for like 3-ish years now
Yes.
consistently. And when I started getting back into it, I noticed that I could not pick up choreography at all. Um, but the more I do it, the better I get at remembering the moves.
Yeah.
And it is such a great exercise in when you're learning a dance and learning the routine, you can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Like that's where you have to be in the moment. And I'm just like obsessed with it. And that's all I really talk about anymore.
Honestly, I'm here for it. It's really, I have a lot of friends too that they're like, I'm not a dancer, but this is what I do. A, as my form of exercise, but B, as this form of discipline, and C, as a way to meet people. And like the list goes on and on and on. But it is something that they've added in now. I wouldn't even say like later in life. It's not like we're old, but like, like in their adult land of life. And they love it a lot. Good on you. How often are you going?
I go like 5 times a week.
Oh, you're going. You're really in it. You're like really
I'm
committed.
almost like sometimes I take video in the class and I'm like, should I reach out to dance agents?
You
It's
might. You
like,
might want to. This might be the move. This might be
I
the
mean, am
additional
I
hyphen.
taking a total career turn?
Look, it's never too late. It is never too
Yeah,
late. I
yeah.
love that. Well, I mean, this is a perfect little segue in terms of adding into the additional hyphens that you have for your life. As we may tag on the dancer hyphen towards the end of it. I'm curious to talk about the other hyphens that usually occupy your time.
Yeah, I have a ton of hyphens. I am an actor, a writer, a director, a producer. I sing a little bit,
Yes, you
mostly
do.
karaoke, but Yeah, I love to sing and dance, obviously, but I am yeah, I'm pretty focused on all of those hyphens.
Hmm.
It's really great to be a multi hyphenate because when one hyphen is not really moving forward, another one is usually taking steps.
Yeah. Do you find that you are choosing when you are putting on one of the hats or the other, or is it more that you let the universe kind of guide you and then you put them on as needed?
I put them on as needed. I write a lot of my own material. I
Hmm.
have 6 spec features kind of making the rounds right now. I have a half hour multicam comedy pilot that's also making the rounds right now. And what was really funny is at the beginning of 2025, I decided I am not going to write this year because
Okay.
I have 6 feature films that are ready to shoot and I have a comedy pilot that's ready to go. And so I refuse. So it was just
Yeah.
like something that I told myself. And then what started happening is that in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., I would wake up with an incredible idea and
Hmm.
I'd be like, why now, God? Why now? Because I told myself I wasn't going to write. But something that my friends were telling me is that I took the pressure off myself.
Correct.
And then the ideas just started coming. Like I got an idea for a slasher movie. I got an idea for a book,
Okay.
which is crazy. Like I've never written a book, but I started writing like I have like 600 words of it, like nothing
Okay.
crazy. But I was like,
Still.
oh, interesting. I don't know why I got this like book idea that I haven't worked on, because
Yeah.
I'm not writing right now. So
Well, I think it's interesting because you're naming we've had a couple of different folks who have like talked about their multi-hyphenate journey and also like how they balance their different hats. And I think what I'm hearing from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you allow yourself to go with your influence and that it is like if you have some sort of gut impulse inspiration that comes to you, you do trust it and then you lean in where it's like, okay, if at 3 a.m. I have this, I have to get up and I have to follow it versus actually it's 3 a.m. I need to sleep and we're going to push this to the side and not deal with it right now.
I don't. I generally like if I do wake up at 3 a.m., I just put it in my notes app, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't wake up and go to the laptop and start writing, start a script. I'm just like, oh, that's an interesting idea. It's just like a log line or it's just
Hmm.
a cool title. And I'm like, that's the title. So I don't immediately go to the computer. I'm very I prioritize rest a lot.
Great.
So I'm not getting out of bed
Okay,
at
that's
3
great.
a.m.
We
Yeah,
love
I
that for you.
prioritize rest, food,
Dance.
exercise, as we already talked about,
Yes,
dance.
exactly.
And that's most important to me because I know that it can wait until I wake
Yeah.
up the next morning.
So then how do you then come back to it and give yourself the structure for it, right? Obviously it takes a moment to write some things or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're the kind of person that like it comes out of you and you sit and it just happens and then you edit. How do you give yourself the time, space, energy to allow these things to move through you?
It definitely takes a moment. I'm not someone who can just sit down and, bust out like 15 pages on a final draft.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of recently, I just do huge, huge outlines. So
Okay.
I'm using Save the Cat beats. I am
Mhm.
beating out an outline, making sure I have really fun set pieces, really interesting characters, and what are their relationships to each other. So I figure out all of that before I even get to writing a script.
Okay.
Um, there are 3 scripts, 3 features that I wrote recently that, throughout the years, they've been like different treatments of like TV show or go back to a feature or go back to a TV show. And so they came out to be like 20-page treatments.
Yeah.
So as I was developing that, I realized that at the end of that process where it, didn't get bought by just being a pitch, I was just like, well, I have this idea is fully fleshed out. all I really need to do is sit down and write the
And write it.
script.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I've done recently, and this is kind of like a cool trick that I learned from Thomas Lennon's book. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's called How to Write Movies for Fun and Profit, but it's an amazing screenwriting book where you basically take the outline and you plug it into Final Draft, and then you do the scene headings. And
Mm.
once, if you have a really great outline that's like, I don't know, 10 to 15 pages long, you're
You have
already
the
like
thing. Yeah.
20 pages into
Yeah.
a final draft. And then you have to just, go into those scene headings and write the scenes and write the dialogue, and you've got it. So
Yeah.
that's a trick that I've been using a lot for writing my
Amazing.
features.
Amazing. Um, let's go to them. It seems like as you have these, you have figured out a way to get in the doors. I feel like we've had a lot of folks to talk about writing and the stages of writing, and we had somebody to talk about pitching, and we've had these conversations in various episodes, but it seems like you have had a lot of success in opening up doors. How did you begin that journey? How did you have a team that knocks on them for you? Do you reach out to different people that you know and have relationships with to get into these rooms? Are you people coming to you now that they know your work? Like, what is the cadence of you beginning to have these relationships?
It all happens in different ways. It's definitely
Mm-hmm.
about relationships. It's definitely about networking. It's definitely about, do you live in LA or New York, to
Mm-hmm.
go to different events? Like, that's really important. I know there's a lot of people saying right now, stay in your hometown, do videos in your hometown and do YouTube and stuff. And yes, you should definitely do that, especially if you don't have the means to move to New York or LA. But at some point, you're going to have to move to New York or LA to like go to the things that we go to. And they're not even like big red carpet events. It's just like get together. It's birthday parties.
Yeah.
It's, lunches with a group of friends where you might not know two or three of the people. Like, I'm not talking about, big parties where you have to wear a ball gown and get hair and makeup done.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about, I go to karaoke parties and I meet people there, like,
Yeah.
it's just about saying yes to all the events that you're invited to. And you also don't have to, get drunk at these things. You don't have
Yeah.
to drink. Like
Yeah.
I think karaoke until 6 a.m. without having one glass of alcohol. So
Good on you. That's actually, I would put that on your special skills because I don't know if that's something that everybody can
I
do.
mean, except like I might lose my voice, but
Yeah.
besides that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like all the doors that I've opened on my own, have been through relationships from starting back to Awkward Black Girl. And that was, I believe that started 13 years ago.
Talk us
And
through that cadence through maybe now.
yeah, of course. So that was when Twitter wasn't really a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
People were like just getting on Twitter, kind of. I had just left Facebook. I did it before it was cool to leave Facebook. And and I was like, I need a social media. Obviously, I need something to keep in touch with people. So then I just started a Twitter. Nobody was on there. And that's how I started following Issa Rae on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And she started following me back. And this was when we didn't have a ton of followers. And a couple days later, she tweeted out she was looking for an actress to play her best friend on her web series. And I reached out and I said, would love to audition. So I went to her house to audition and I got the role. And, it wasn't any pay. And I was also this was at a time when I was doing like USC auditions and AFI film auditions and just building up my reel. So I was saying yes to everything that felt good and that felt right. And so we shot Awkward Black Girl on the weekends and at night. And it was super fun. And I'm so glad I said yes. And it was during that time that obviously Awkward Black Girl started to blow up. And that's when people started reviewing it. And I've made relationships from the Awkward Black Girl days with journalists, with executives, with people who were kind of just starting out in the industry as well. Like we were
Right.
all kind of in it together. And then after we shot second season, it just kind of blew up from there. And
Yeah.
yes, people were reaching out to me, but once again, I was like going to the events, just hanging out with people, meeting new people, a friend of a friend of a friend. And these are the people from like 12,
Yeah.
13 years ago that I connect with now to
Yeah.
read my script. So it's not an instant process, you
Yeah.
know? And that's something that really helped with Definition Please and getting Definition Please out there, is that there were, a handful of journalists that hopped on reviewing Awkward Black Girl back in the day that I reached out to, you know, 13 years later, and they were like, happy to review your
Yeah.
film. Let's do it. So I think a lot of, newbies think that it's like a very instant process, that you're going to get it into the hands of the president of Sony, and that's just like not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I'm
So
hearing, no, I mean, it's true. Like what I'm hearing from you is that you're reaping the seeds that you sowed, right? Which is just like, you planted these seeds and they happened genuinely where you were doing good work and you were showing up and these people were seeing it. And then, you kept the relationships again, genuine, and were like, hey, this is me now. This is what I have. I appreciated what you do and what you've done. Can you do this now? Which feels like a more, easy ask, frankly. I think a lot of it is, there is a fear around, well, I don't want to be a burden, or what if, the scope is too quote unquote below somebody, or they don't know enough about, and we can psych ourselves out of that. And it seems like you had enough data and also real relationships to be like, hey, you know me enough to know, would you? And then the ask is a little bit more from a place of, a genuine connection rather than something that feels like a heavy lift,
yeah,
which
also don't ignore the people who are in the trenches with you. Like I
correct.
did UCB 7, 8 years ago, and I did it for a while, a bunch of years. And the people that I went through UCB with now are
Mhm.
like on TV. They're
Yeah.
executives. They're in the writers' room. So don't ignore the people that you're hanging out with right now,
Yeah.
and make them your crew, make them
Mhm.
your cast, so that you can grow together. Like, what did Judd Apatow do back in the day?
Correct.
You know, who is
Literally.
their squad? What is Seth Rogen doing? What is Paul Feig doing? And so I think it's really cool to like continue to bring your squad along
Yeah.
for the journey. Like
It's
who
not
you
only
stand
cool, it's
out.
also just like it's like don't forget the little people of it all. Like I definitely I have a lot of feelings around acquaintances of mine, and then all of a sudden they hit a moment and then they forgot everybody. And it's like, you only got to where you were because of all of us. Also because like we were also in it with you. We knew you. Like it's not like we don't have any idea of who you are. And just because now there's like a status social thing into the mix, like you forget, like I don't know. I believe in karma in that way of like, treat people kindly, mostly because just be a good person, but also like in the depth of it all, like you don't really know who anybody becomes or what power they have. I think about this one time right after undergrad. This is like, I don't even know how many years ago at this point. I was working my Thrival job at the time. I was selling Broadway merchandise at Broadway shows right out of undergrad. I know,
That's
like,
cool.
was it? It was. I could go
That's so
on.
fun. I
It was
kind of love that.
it was a time. It was a real time.
Yeah.
I was young. I was in the world. It was, a good job at the time for me. And I met some really wonderful people, all of whom pretty much were like actors also, and this was their Thrival job. And some of whom are like really like doing very, very well. And I remember my boss at the time was going to be directing a fringe show, and he needed a stage manager. And one person from my undergrad had applied for the stage management position. And this person was not a kind person in undergrad at all. And I did
Mm.
not like them at all. And I'd like to say that I get along with most people, and I can understand that people are complicated and sometimes we don't know everything about them, and try not to judge people for how they are. But this person was consistently not a nice person for many, many people. And they asked me, like, what is your thoughts? And I had this moment before I even answered. I was like, oh my God, like I am being put in this position where I could actually get this girl or cost this girl a job. And it was a really weird thing where I didn't have a real relationship with her other than because she treated everybody so terribly. I didn't want that. And in this moment, I was like, hey, I really got to be honest. Like, I wouldn't recommend her. I don't think she's a nice person. I don't think she's kind. However, my friend over here, who is also a stage manager, is. And I think you should actually interview them. And then they got the job instead. And it was this really weird thing, which is, I never thought I'd be in that position because none of this had anything to do with me, nor did I ever think that I would have any sort of say about this. Like, we can go back and forth about like, was that right? Should you have blah, 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 blah. But like, ultimately I got my friend a job. So that is, you're looking out for your people. But there is something to be said about like, you never know who anybody is and who anybody, like, these rooms are small. And if you are not a nice person, like, people know that. People will remember that. Ultimately, they'll remember how you made them feel. I'd rather work with somebody who is a really good person, who maybe not the most talented of them all, than somebody who's super talented and is not going to treat the people on set or on stage with kindness and grace. Because you remember how that feels.
Oh, definitely. And you need to always be honest in a
Yeah.
situation like that when you are asked,
Yeah.
which I will never generally put my opinion in an email or text, but I'll be like, call me.
Correct. Yeah.
and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's just like a good human thing to do, to just be kind to people.
Yeah. And bring your people along.
Yeah.
I love that. Hi, actor friends. Talking to you. If finding the perfect monologue has you feeling stuck, I've got just the thing. I've put together a free monologue selection toolkit just for you. It's packed with resources, free and paid options, plus tips for choosing, editing, and customizing pieces to showcase you. Head over to jenniferapple.net/freebie and stop avoiding the auditions that ask for a monologue or waiting for the perfect piece to simply fall into your lap. Dive into this free toolkit that I set up just for you that'll set you up to feel agency over your process and artistry. That's jenniferapple.net/freebie and get started on finding your next go-to monologue. So flash forward now, you are creating, writing, directing, producing, acting in your own work. How has that been for you when you are in these meetings, in terms of the way in which you are showing up, the way in which people are approaching you or perceiving you, now that you do all of these things?
Yeah, it all depends, because sometimes I am just asked to, like, hey, here's a book that we optioned and we want you to write the pitch for it, and you're not going to be really involved in a directorial or an actor sense. And I'm like, cool, like, let me read the book, let me see if it's like an interesting story that I want to bring to life. And so then that's just when I put my writer hat on. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm also sent feature films to see if I want to just direct something. And that's really fun too, because then I can take a look at, what is being, first of all, what is being considered out there, what is being picked up, what production companies are noticing, what buyers are noticing. And so it's just great for me to even just read it, even if I don't necessarily want to direct. With directing, I will say I am way more pickier than if I am acting in something.
Why?
Because I do feel that directing is way more of a time commitment, and acting, you can just kind of say yes to the job and you go and you do the job, and then you come home and you have forgotten completely about the project until it comes out, or maybe it never comes out. So, but with directing, you are like in the trenches with pre-production, with getting your crew together, with getting your cast together, shooting, and then post-production, and then the whole, festival run with it, or, the wherever it ends up streaming or goes out to theaters. So that's a big, huge commitment. So I'm a bit pickier with the things that I agree to direct. And generally the script has to be really great, as I'm, I'm a writer. So if I get a script and I see something there, I will ask if I can, work with the writer to, give notes or help them co-write it. But yeah, the script has to really be in a great place for me to say yes to directing. Whereas with acting, I'm just like, sure, I'll do it. I don't care.
I'm sure you have some guardrails that you're like,
I don't know. I'll be like, I'll do it. And if I don't feel like something's right in the dialogue, I'll just improvise,
I love it. I love it. Well, for
Yeah.
people who are, maybe in their earlier process of, or let's say we'll dial it back even a little bit more of like, let's say people have pieces that they've written, right? They have pieces that, whether it's a pilot, a feature, a short, what have you, or maybe it's a treatment and it hasn't been, or an outline we're going to make it even, they don't live in LA or New York just yet. They are planning on moving. What are some things that they could be considering while they are wanting to move their pieces to the next step?
Whatever you're trying to pitch or sell, make it super low budget and try to shoot it yourself as much as you can. I think in your first foray into writing, maybe don't go into some like action thriller that has a bunch of explosions and cars jumping off bridges and stuff like that. Unless you can make it like really cool with like stop motion animation or something. I don't know. That's just an idea. But I would say if you look at the stuff that's happening right now in the industry, Shane Gillis went out and he shot I don't know if it was just the pilot or the full first season of Tires, and he had it up on YouTube before Netflix acquired it, and then Netflix is making season 2 of that show. Mark Duplass, obviously DIY filmmaker, but he independently produced recently a series that was on the Netflix top 10 for a while. And so that was another acquisition. So I would just say people are having a lot of success with just making a thing, making the episodes, maybe even making a short and treating it as either a pilot presentation for a bigger idea. I've had success with my short Cowboy and Indian that anyone can watch on Vimeo. I've sold it twice to 2 different studios to be made into a series. And guess what? That series never came out, but the payments that I received for those options went into funding Definition Please.
Amazing. And so then now let's take it to the next step. You are in LA or have been in LA or New York for a moment. You have these pieces. Let's say you're like, okay, I want to make these on my own. What would you recommend are some things that people would do to kind of begin that process?
Get a great producer. So if you don't know how to line produce, if you don't know how to make a budget, if you don't know how to make a schedule, you need to hire someone to do that. You need to pay them really good money. And that's step number 1. Because I'm assuming that you already have the scripts written, they're done. And now, I'm not a line producer. So that's why I am always working with a great, producing partner to bring that side to the project. And I think that's very important. So once you have that, that's when you start asking friends or start asking people that you've worked with already about a DP. Also, I'm assuming that you're also directing this.
Cool.
Are we?
Let's assume that. Let's assume.
Okay, let's assume that. So you're also directing this. So having a great experienced DP for someone who maybe hasn't shot a bunch of stuff before is really, really important. Someone that you trust. Something that I did with Definition Please is with Brooks. I had worked with him on an indie feature a year before shooting Definition Please, blowing up right now. And we shot that movie in 10 days. So I knew that he was good and he can work fast, which is exactly what we need. And that we get along really well. So I got him on board. And then Brooks and I had a bunch of movie dates to watch different movies, like Duplass Brothers movies, Wong Kar-wai, Eighth Grade, all these movies that we were like watching it together, and I would be like, that's a shot that I want in the
Yeah.
film, or like that's a cool like camera movement. And so he was really aware of what I wanted, and this was very important because I'm pretty much in every scene of the movie.
Yeah.
And because we only had an 11-day shoot, I had to make sure that my DP and I had great communication, because I wasn't looking at any footage or dailies or anything. We didn't have time for
Interesting.
that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's the second piece that you got to get in place. So you got your producer, you got your DP, and then you can like ask your actor friends to be in it. Like, I didn't have any auditions. I was just like, oh, this person's good, this person's good, this person's good.
Yeah.
I don't need to like see them audition. I know that they can pull it
Handle
off.
this. Mm-hmm.
So then I just started texting my friends, and most of them said yes.
I love it. I love
and
it.
then you know, your producer helps you get the rest of the crew together. And so that's really important. Obviously, every single piece is so important. Lighting, sound, set design, yeah, costumes, hair and makeup. So you get all that, you know, set up, and then you're ready to go shoot your movie.
I love it. Did you do a round of fundraising for it, or did you personally invest?
So I personally invested. So I mentioned before that my short Cowboy and Indian has
Yeah.
sold twice. The first time it sold, it was to Super Deluxe, which is now a defunct company, and it was shut down by the Time Warner merger. And when the merger happened, I was at Sundance for the first time. Because I had just done the Sundance Episodic Lab, so I decided to go to the
Got it.
festival, and then they made me a Sundance influencer where I would
Cute.
interview people on the red carpet and stuff. It was great. It was like the greatest first time at Sundance
Yeah.
experiences. Yeah, because I was
Sounds
talking to all
pretty
the
epic.
directors and stuff, and it was really awesome.
Yeah, talk about a networking event. Like, I feel like
Yes.
you probably networked hard without even needing to do it strategically.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
And so I got this email saying, hey, Time Warner is giving you your show back, your short / your show back, along with a check for $90,000. And I was like,
Okay.
what? This is where like you need to have good lawyers. Like
Yeah.
that's really important. So I was like, cool. I didn't know I was getting this money. So I put that $90,000 into Definition Please.
Amazing.
Like, I didn't need any of that money. I didn't know it was coming my way.
Had you not gotten that money, what would you have done to make Definition Please?
I would have made it for like $5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, it was at Sundance where I was like, I'm making this movie this summer. Get on board this moving train, or don't talk to me. So
I love the audacity in it. Yeah, you're like, this isn't my issue. This is your issue. You're either here or not.
Crazy, because that email came literally hours after I said that aloud.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I do believe, the more I live, the more I do believe energetically that there's like something happening, because the amount of stories within my own life and other people's lives are like, this is totally a tangent, but not really. I watched the show Alone. Do you ever watch Alone on Netflix? I mean, now it's on Netflix. It's a survivalist show.
Is it a reality show?
I guess it's literally people who are survivalists who just are plopped in a plot of land in the middle of nowhere, and they're supposed to outlast one another, but there's no film crew. It's just them, and they are filming themselves as they're building shelters and procuring food, hopefully, and trying to like weather the storms. But there's
I'm just gonna say, I don't believe that there's no film crew. I feel like there's a behind the scenes film crew telling them what to take. I don't believe any reality show.
Agreed. I also, because these people are like living off the grid in their real lives, and I'm like, they probably have never really had a really good cell phone, let alone like deciding to like put a tripod up. Like, how do they actually know? I do know that they go through training for a week of their camera stuff before they go out there.
But keep going.
I hear you. There's not other people, but it's possible that they pre-plant cameras. I don't know. But anyway, this one guy.
Just say the production is not going to let people die on their watch.
1,000%. 1,000%. They do have little calling things that they could, the point of the story is that there's this one guy who truly like gave up. He was like, I can't procure food. I'm losing my mind. I'm starving. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm wet. Nothing's working. I'm like truly like you watch him on his little tripod, like he actually has tapped out. And while behind him, he had set up a fishing rod that he made out of a stick and whatever string he was able to bring with him. And the fishing rod starts to like slowly kind of move. And in the literal moment that this man was giving up and saying, I am tapping out, here is this thing in my hand that I'm calling producers to come, excavate me. This little fishing rod starts to move. And lo and behold, there is a fish like at the end of his rod. Truly, like he's not an actor. I can say that with 1,000% confidence, like not an actor. And the universe was like, actually, your moment isn't yet. This little fish is going to be here just to give you like a little bit more of a hope. And the amount of times that versions of that have happened in mine and other friends' lives, it's very real.
Yeah.
That like the moment that you decide the thing, the universe can provide because there's space for it. And that maybe sounds more woo-woo. If anybody's been listening to these episodes this whole time, I've maybe progressed my woo-woo-ness like over time. I was like, I'm not woo-woo, and now I'm like, there's a fishing rod that's moving. But it's real. If you set that in motion and you were like, this is what's happening, get on the train or get off the train, I don't care what you do, the train's moving. People respond to that because there's definitive movement happening, and people like that because otherwise it's just nebulous whatever, and what are we all doing, you know?
Yeah, and I felt like once I had that $90,000 in the definition please bank account, it was easier to raise the rest of the money because
1,000%.
investors knew that I had skin in the game, that I was going to be losing my own money if this didn't work out. And and then I raised the rest of the money.
Amazing.
And then we shot it June of 2019.
Amazing. Have you been using the same monologue for years? Are you gearing up to apply for BA, BFA, or MFA programs and need pieces for that process? Or maybe you just have no idea where to even start with monologue hunting? I get it, and that's why I offer monologue sourcing. This is a unique process where I find monologues chosen specifically for you. So many artists pick pieces based on external labels like type or for roles rather than finding material that represents who they truly are. So here's how it works. We'll meet virtually and you'll share all about who you are, your passions, values, beliefs, and everything in between. Don't worry, I will help guide you through this process. Then I'll get to work finding monologues that fit you like a glove. With years of experience sourcing pieces for hundreds of artists, I've seen the difference it makes to have a monologue that genuinely feels like you. So, if you want to feel empowered about the monologues you bring into rooms and use for auditions, I would love to help you find them. And because you're a listener of the Empowered Artist Collective podcast, I'm offering an exclusive rate. Head to empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo to register and claim the special offer. That's empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo. I cannot wait to help you find monologues you absolutely adore. How do you pitch? I know we're bouncing around here, but because you do so many things and you've done it so many different ways, how have you pitched in the past, or how do you pitch now? Again, is it like you cold emailing these people being like, I have this project, it's won all these things, you should whatever, or I am a award-winning person, talk to me, I have this new thing? Or is it now people are reaching out to your team and you're taking meetings? Or is it you don't even have things written and you just have the idea and then they hire you to write the thing? Like, where are we at in terms of that?
You know what? It's all different because a lot of my original ideas, I feel like I have just written the script. Because I'm like, I have this idea. It's nobody's but mine. So I'm just going to write it so that people can, see exactly what it is. Yeah. And generally that is what you have to do with an original idea. It's pretty hard to just sell an original idea on a log line or even like a short paragraph, unless you have Matt Damon and Liam Neeson attached to star in your tiny idea, right?
Yeah.
I would definitely say if you have an original idea, just write the script. Just go ahead and do it. With other stuff, I have little ideas where it's just a log line, and I've pitched it to people, and they're like, "All right, well, I'm going to take this to the studio," and I was like, you don't need anything else? That feels crazy. And they're like, no, I get it. It's this meets that. And here's the log line. And we're just going to see what happens. And I'm like, great. So that's the smallest thing. that I've ever given, but I don't recommend that to anyone just breaking into the
Yeah.
industry right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Generally, what I do when I talked about those couple features films that I wrote that are based on treatments, I do write a full fleshed out treatment that could be anywhere from 8 to 16 pages.
Yeah. What are you putting in your treatment for you?
So the first section is why me? Like, why do I need to write this? Why does it need to be out there? Second is logline. Third is the world. What's the world? What's the tone?
Do you put
Very important.
visuals in yours also? Like you're full of visual representations, or is it mostly
So
verbiage?
that's interesting because if you're an executive and only looking at me as a writer, then I don't tend to put a lot of visuals.
Mm.
If you're looking at me as a writer director, then I will make a separate deck.
Okay.
And that's what I finished up a horror comedy, so I made a deck for that. It's like a 20-page just purely visual deck. I don't tend to put visuals into a writing pitch or writing treatment.
Okay. So after the world,
Then characters. You go straight into the characters. Who do we care about? Why do we care about them? What are their wants? What are their desires? What are their relationships with the other characters? And then you go into the synopsis. So for TV, it's give me the summarize the pilot. For a feature, summarize the entire feature and tell us the ending too.
Yeah.
Don't be like, and then what happens? You'll have to read
see.
to find out. I'm like, I'm not going to read it. Just tell me what happens. You know?
You're like, I'm the one who's paying you to like have the whole thing, not just 75% of it. Please tell me what I'm investing
and then
in.
that's pretty much it. And you can have kind of like a wrap up at the end, but it's not really necessary. If you in a TV show, if you want to say, hey, this is what's going to kind of happen in season 1, very broad strokes, you can do that. You can also, with TV, I tend to know what's happening in the season 1 finale. And I also love to say what's happening in the series finale so that you wrap up the entire arc of the lead characters. And this doesn't have to be like a ton of work either. Like
when you say that for yourself, what does that mean? A ton of work. It's relative, I think, for many.
I'll just be like, hey, in the series finale, she defeats the villain. She like sticks up for herself finally, and she defeats the big bad. Like that's it. They get together. The two characters.
Got it. Got it. You're not fully spelling it out. You're kind of just
not fully spelling it out. Because that, at the end of the day, and which I've noticed for TV especially, is that executives love to get in there and collaborate with you and make sure that they're providing notes and ideas, and they want to be creative too. So that's why you only want to provide broad strokes, so that they can also be like, oh yeah, actually, like maybe she doesn't get together with that person. Maybe she gets together with this other person. You're like, yeah, totally. Oh my God, that's such a great idea.
That's what I somehow missed that when I was thinking through it, and now thank you for illuminating the way.
If you make them feel involved, they can get personally excited about the project too.
I love that. For you, what is your favorite part of the entire process? Like let's say we're again putting you in like all of these hats. From inception to completion, at the moment, like where are you finding the most joy and why?
Oh my gosh. I love different bits of each of the parts. Like with writing, I love just coming up with the world. I've read a lot of comedies, and when the real world around us is falling apart, I kind of love writing my comedies, because I'll go back and I'll read something that I wrote maybe a couple months ago, and I'll laugh and I'll be like, this is funny. Like, this is really, I'll laugh at the same joke like over
Yeah.
and over. I'm like,
Yeah.
I wrote that joke. Like, that's good.
Yeah.
And
It holds
so
up. It holds up despite
it holds
everything. I
up.
love it.
It
Yeah.
holds up. And then with directing, I really love just being in charge of everything. Being in charge of everything, but also in a way that I have hired all the right people for their jobs and I trust them to do their jobs well. So I'm not micromanaging anyone. Um, so that's one thing that I love about directing. And then with acting, I mean, we all love to act. Acting is so fun. You can just lose yourself in a role. You can surprise yourself and the people that you're working with different moments that you didn't know would happen. And so that acting is always the most magical for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it just kind of happens out of nowhere. And it's really cool and fun. And producing, I don't like producing.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. I don't really want to do it anymore unless I can be just like a vanity EP and I don't have to do any work, like it's not. I obviously did a lot of producing for Definition Please, and I was also the publicist, the film festival liaison, the I don't know. I had like so many different jobs for that film, and it was a lot of work. So I will tend to in the future leave the producing to the professionals.
I hear you. I hear you with a capital H. It's funny because I feel like the amount of times in my life that people have been like, I mean, granted, like I do, I guess, produce like this podcast, like I do produce things and I don't think about it as producing because I'm not doing other elements that I, in my brain, associate with producing. But the amount of times that people have been like, but Jen, you're a really innate producer. Like, people, you like to organize things. I was like, yeah, but I'd rather die than see a spreadsheet. Like, and if I don't ever want to look at a spreadsheet ever, how am I supposed to be like, I want to connect you both. I do, but I don't want to be the one who's like facilitating everything that comes before, after, during, in the middle of it. Like, I don't. I just want you both to know each other and like figure it out. And if that's producing, fine. But if we're talking about the weeds of it all, I'd rather not. I really, but the love-hate relationship of it, it's interesting though, because as somebody who is also a writer, a multi-hyphanate who, I have my own projects also, it's like at some point, if you are to try to make things happen, sometimes you do have to wear these hats in order to get them to happen. And hopefully come the next time, then you could maybe have other folks who could step in. And like you were saying, you did it for Definition Please. And now you're like, I'd rather really give it to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, if you are shooting your own project, you are just going to have to suck
bite
it
the
up
bullet. Yeah.
and produce. Yeah.
I know. And it's a tough one because sometimes you have to wear these hats that's not why you are doing the thing. And unfortunately, that goes with the territory until it hopefully doesn't. And you can change gears the next time you do it, which is wonderful. As you were also first starting out, were there any sorts of books, or even now as you're in it and, refining your skill set and honing in on the certain things, are there certain, resources or podcasts or, movies that you're like, these are the guideposts to my creativity that like truly everyone really should follow, listen once, multiple times, clock as they go?
I have mentioned this on this podcast earlier, but Thomas Lennon's book, How to Write Movies for Fun and Profit, is a great resource in terms of taking the writing to the next level. I also look at Save the Cat when I'm writing out outlines. I think that's a really good way to, figure out beats and stuff. And obviously, like, as your script progresses and changes, it might like leave those Save the Cat beats a little bit, but that's fine. It's just like a good place to start for me. Something else that I love to do that's super inspirational is watch famous directors that are very successful today, watch their first movies.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I'm not talking about Eraserhead, which is like an amazing first movie. That is a genius first movie. but I'm talking about like, go look at like Bong Joon-ho's first movie and you'll be like, hey, do that. I can do that. Like maybe I can't do Parasite right now, but I can do this first one.
Yeah.
Go look at the Coen brothers first movie. You're kind of like, I can. This is like a very small
Yeah.
character driven movie. I can do
Mhm.
that. And so that gives you hope because you're like, all these directors did not start out to be
Correct.
the Quentin Tarantino and uh, and so it's really exciting to go watch their first movies and be like, okay, they started here, so I'm gonna just like take a step back in my script and
Hmm.
also make it small and also make it doable and put my own like flourish into it the way that these amazing filmmakers did. And so
I love that.
that's a huge inspiration for me to just like keep moving forward.
I love that. I think that's a very tangible, but also interesting framing because arguably we know the people now rather than their initial, and it's just like, no, where did they start? I think that's a really helpful reframing of that for yourself as you are moving into this next season of, at least for 2025, potentially not writing at all. Um, we'll see how that goes for you while you're dancing.
It's not going well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. It's not going well.
Look, if you're good at something, people are going to want it from you. And, if you have a really creative mind, I don't think it's kind of hard to turn that part of yourself off. But
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge you either way. If it happens, if it doesn't, the wind will take you. But no matter whether it is a hat that you end up putting on or not, in this next season of your journey, what are some of the things that you are keeping in mind for yourself in this like next chapter as you like, I don't want to say like level up because what does that even mean? But like as you go into this next season.
I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, to be fair. I'm just going to, keep being kind, keep, prioritizing my rest, my friends, travel. I'm excited to
Yes.
travel a little more this year. Um, I'm doing a play reading coming up in
Yeah.
Denver that I'm really excited about. And I've never done an actors equity thing. So I'm just like, oh no.
Welcome to the dark side.
Next
Welcome.
stop, Broadway. So,
Listen, they are bringing out LA folks in droves to do these shows now. There were enough of us in New York, but they are like, we're coming. We are coming for the jobs. So I'm sure we'll see you out here soon.
Awesome. I would love it. I mean, yeah. So I'm just really excited to kind of dip my toes into some new areas. Like I said, I started writing a book and maybe, continue to write that slowly and not, stress myself out over it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited to kind of keep the energy neutral and keep it going.
I love it. For anybody who wants to work with you, who wants to watch your stuff, who wants to reach out, who wants to like ask further questions or whatever, what within your boundaries is the best way for people to find you and reach out?
The best way is through my website. It's www.sujataday.com, and you can fill out the form and then it'll go straight to my team and we'll take a look.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for this conversation.
Yeah, this was so great, Jen. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you walk away with some fresh insights, feel inspired, and a little more empowered to take the next step on your artistic journey. Remember, whether it's a small shift or a big breakthrough, every step forward counts. You've got this, and we're here cheering you on every step of the way. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll never miss out on the discussions we have each week. And if something today really resonated with you, please leave us a review. It truly is one of the best ways to help other artists find our podcast and join in on the conversations. Plus, we feel the love too when you do. And don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share this episode with your people or post about it on social media. Be sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can see what's landing for you and keep the conversation going. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Keep creating, keep thriving, stay empowered. I'm Jennifer Apple. Until next time.